Up next on Inspiring Beauty and Believers.
It goes. But for men, right, naturally tend to be, and yes, this is a stereotype, but it's also true, tend to be more aggressive, more angry. It tends to be safer to express anger than it does to express sadness. So for men, depression looks more probably like irritability, anger, annoyance, that quick trigger, than it would look like, you know, under the.
We found
again, he's done. Back again, he's done miracles. Back again, he's done miracles on me.
It feels like, for me, whenever you're sad, it could be like, yo, that could be depression. You'd be like, yo, I'm sad. Like, I'm sad. I'm mildly depressed whenever I'm sad. Like, it just seems interchangeable because I've never, like I said, like if I was depressed, somebody would have to have told me based on my experience. Because when I was in it, I was like, yo, I'm just sad that I got hurt. Like, physically I'm hurting, and mentally I'm not capable of doing the things that I want to do. Someone would be like, hey, that's depression. I'm like, or I was just sad. And I don't want to fight depression. I'm not afraid if somebody would like, hey, you were a little depressed. I'd be like, damn, word? Like, that shit just caught me off guard.
And that's fair, right? Like, that's a fair perspective, but sadness is normal, so to speak. I don't like that word, but we're supposed to be sad, right? If you look at Inside Out, I think everyone's seen that movie. I think it's a great movie, right? But you need sadness. And that movie illustrated why you need sadness. It can't be just joy and happiness all the time, because you won't know what joy and happiness is if you've never been sad, right? But depression is when it interferes with your everyday. And so, your strong friend shows up and yeah, they're still going to work, but are they interacting at work, or are they just absent-mindedly going through the motions of work, right? Are you coming home and are you cooking, or are you just buying the quickest meal and or not eating, or just eating to eat because there's nothing else, right? Depression's a little bit past just that feeling of sadness. It's more of like that, like overall just immobilization within yourself, whether mentally, emotionally, or physically. It depends which one hits first, or if they all hit at the same time.
I mean, it just looked like you're processing it. So I'm just giving time to process something that I learned. I learned that like you have to allow. It's okay to have some dead space for a moment, because sometimes people are like trying to process their thoughts on it. I'm not afraid of silence.
Now the crazy part about it is that I'm still trying to pinpoint when it is that I go through it. And it's kind of good, like you said, there's people who can, because you got your eyeballs and you can see out. You can't be a person who can look from the outside looking in on yourself. So a lot of times that you just walk around with a mirror 24/7, nobody does that. But that's the thing that I was thinking about it, because I was like, dang, if I was depressed, I could be good. But one thing I can say about myself, I was ready for all the smoke. And I just thought it was a stage of grief when I was dealing with it with grandma.
Yeah,
I was
like everybody.
But that is right. So if we want to talk about stages of grief, anger is a stage of grief. So
yeah.
But also depression is a stage of grief too. It goes. But for men, right, naturally tend to be, and yes, this is a stereotype, but it's also true, tend to be more aggressive, more angry. It tends to be safer to express anger than it does to express sadness. So for men, depression looks more probably like irritability, anger, annoyance, that quick trigger, than it would look like, under the
we found okay,
like then under the cover with like the blanket over my head, and that happens too. But there's more of that quick trigger, like less irritability, agitation, etc. Like it's just kind of a shut the fuck out of my face. Then
I grew up like that, so I wasn't sure, but I was just like, it was just at a point where it was just like last year when I was looking at it, and like you said, I was going through it. One of the things that I just realized is just like, all right, enough is enough. Because sometimes I look at it, and that's the thing that is good to have people to tell you about yourself that you really respect and tell you. And sometimes it's just like, all right, enough's enough. People are using you and taking advantage of you, and you ain't finna put up with it no more. Like, just gonna let people know, but it's still not okay to hurt somebody if you're being hurt. And that's what happens oftentimes. Like, I'm going through this thing, and I'm just gonna put it upon you. You know what I'm saying? You just be the one that's gonna get the smoke today. And that's why sometimes some people have to be careful about how you play or how you go about things with certain people when you don't know them personally. Like, a lot of people like at work and stuff like that, I'm very nice and very friendly, and I play with them, but I'm very like respectful about how I go about it. Yeah, so basically, it's definitely difficult for me to really analyze people that I don't know. So I try to be careful about being too much about myself with them. But anybody I'm very close with, I'm free to be with. So, but thank you for telling me that, Doc. I'm glad that you was there and you told me. You know what I'm saying? I just like art now, but yeah, I'm way past it. Am I past it or am I still here? Like, tell me. Because I'm all the way on the second arm now.
But that was, I mean, if you don't mind, I can kind of use you, right?
I
But
don't really care.
you know, we talked about substance, we talked about, you know, sexualization, etc., but like also tattoos, right? That pain, right? So I feel that pain. That's easier for me to cope with than the pain inside my heart or the pain that's too much to say out loud. And so like it translates, right? Shooting guns. That's another thing people do because that release not like that. But
I love that too. So.
But that release, right? Like if you're out there in the middle of the desert with AK-47s letting it go, like I'm just using an example. But the kickback, etc., like just that adrenaline rush to get out whatever that is in a different manner and release it.
So that's where the sexual part comes in as well, is that release.
Yes.
Look, we're adults. I'm just
we are. I don't know how we went from guns to sex, but yes, sex. Yes, that's sexual. And the changing.
Bang, yo, that's how. Yeah.
But
bang, big bang theory.
You said the release, Doc. We need the release. You know what I'm saying?
Next question. So, have any of y'all, if you're willing to admit it,
Bussin'. Go to the next question, please.
Have any of y'all been to therapy? And or has anyone ever normalized, outside of myself, going to therapy for you? Where it wasn't like this taboo, like, oh, you're going to therapy, you're nuts type of situation.
You know, the crazy part about it is that I've never been opposed to it. I kind of psychoanalyze myself through books that I read. So I read like therapeutic books and things and that nature and kind of find myself within that, which I have a big ups to MJ about self-improvement, self-development and stuff like that. But I actually started reading like actual therapy books, like learning about yourself, about attachment issues and about abandonment issues. And that's what really made it reflect for me about mending the things with my mom, you know what I'm saying, about, you know, being abandoned and not having her around. And then when I got to talking to her, needless to say, I really got an understanding of why I was not in her life. So two sides to every story. But one of the people who actually like set me up with therapy was my sister Song. So it was crazy because it was a situation that she was navigating with, is that basically there was a conflict between me and a sibling, and I guess it was thought that I would not go when I was very open. I was like, well, I'm down to see anything, because at the end of the day, I first start with myself as a reflection of how do I play a part in something, and then work on the outside of whatever else is going on around me. But one of the things that I learned in that therapy session, thank you again, Song, is that I'm a fixer, which doctor right here called me, I think it was either around that same time or before that, Captain Save-'em, which is like, so if it's Captain Save-'em is the nice way I'll put it, Captain Save-'em, fixer or Messiah effect, whatever you put in that is for some reason you're trying to fix everything for everybody, but it can be very draining because at some point nobody else carries it for you. And then at the point when you need it and you have nobody else to go to, that's where you start getting drained, and that's where the irritabilities and stuff come in. And I try to be as nice as possible, but I have tendencies where I could be a little bit more hood and rugged and rigid. And I have a very loving side, like it is, but it's all based upon if I'm hungry. Kind of heard that on Marcus and one before. Dang, am I really hungry? Like, am I tired? Am I sleepy? Am I exhausted or burnt out? That's when it kind of moved to that irritability. And it's not okay to backsplash on people like that. But yeah, I've definitely accepted therapy, and it wasn't something before, because we learned when we was growing up, I ain't letting them white people in my business, or you know what I'm saying?
Right. Let them white people in our business.
I never, what's that Dave Chappelle said? Girl, I never forgive you for this. When you put them in therapy, like, bro, I'd never forgive you for this. Because people don't know how to talk and communicate effectively, you know what I'm saying? So it helps to have a mediator. And that's the way that people should see therapy, as a mediator, and also a person to reflect and put the mirror in front of your face if you don't do it for yourself. So thank you, Sonia, for that. And Dr. Sam calling me Captain Saver. Captain Saver, bleed.
Similar to King. I personally have never had, like, that wasn't just a thing where it was like, yo, you should go to therapy. But even in college, like I majored in psychology, and one of my dopest professors, he was like, yo, you see all these kids in here, and it was all these psychology students. He goes, they think they're in psychology because they want to be psychologists and help other people.
No.
Like, are they here for them?
No, he's right. It's not because you want to be there, because you want to learn psychology. Sorry, go ahead.
All right, bet you.
We're just agreeing, you know.
Marcus, you got Doc excited.
You know, because every time we agree.
Fire it up, yo. But yeah, he was like, you know, he's like, these students need to be here for themselves. He's like, that's when this degree becomes the most worthwhile. And when he said that to me, even, you know, as a junior that was really diving into my psychology courses, that's when I realized that I needed a lot of help for past traumas and healing and stuff. So that's where my self-development journey began. Like King said, though, like I started reading my psychology books, not to assess the scenarios that were in the books, but how they applied to me, and uncovered so many traumas that I had suppressed and pushed back, and all of these things that I was like, oh, I didn't even realize that that's still been impacting me to this day. And so for these last over a decade now, a lot of the personal development that I do has been on my own behalf, to uncover attachment issues, abandonment issues, hurt, trauma. The snowball goes and goes and goes. And it's just been really freeing to be like, oh, damn, like, I don't think like that because I want to think like that. It was something that I developed over time because of this. And now I look at every scenario in my life. Whenever there's conflict or anything that triggers me, I don't worry about the trigger. I go, why does it trigger me and where did it come from? So now I'm revisiting things to try to get to the root cause of it. And it's been dope. I even took 2 years ago, I went to a seminar and it's called MITT, Mastery in Training something. Transformational something, right? But it's all about self. And I uncovered animosity and frustration and anger that I was holding towards my mom that I didn't even realize. Like, it was so crazy. Like, I'm literally in a room of 250 people, and I'm sitting front row because I was like, I'm paying for this seminar for myself, and I'm sitting there with the instructor, and he's going in, and I'm bawling on the front row like nobody else was in the room, because I realized some of the stories that I had. Like, I was like, I got to talk to my mom's because she's my lifeblood. But in the back of my mind, I still had a trauma from when I was like 9 years old, that she wasn't there for me the way I needed her to be. And I blamed her for it. And it was just like, yo, I got to go talk to her, right? Like, so I've never sat down with a therapist specifically, but I've had so many therapeutic events that have allowed me to like work through a lot of hurt that I didn't even know existed. So it's been interesting, but it's been dope. And to be honest, like King said, I don't know that I want to sit down with a therapist. I don't know, like, to be 100% honest, that's just being honest, because I have people in my life that I do trust. I would not, in this stage in my life, be super open with a therapist. I just wouldn't. Like, I'm having so many dope conversations with the people that I do trust in my life, and I'm uncovering so much. It's like, yeah, what they say, no new friends. Not right now. Like, I fully understand that I will need a therapist. Like, I'm already prescribed to premarital counseling and therapy sessions when that comes on the horizon. I'm open to it, and I'm like, yo, at some point I'm going to need to talk to someone on that level, but I'm just not open to it right now. So I wouldn't be genuine in it. It would be a waste of my time.
At least you're honest.
And just real quick, one of the things that I keep saying is that we really need the mothers and the fathers back. One of the things that our therapists as growing up was our grandmother and our grandfathers, our uncles were very wise. Like, even though they made mistakes, they gave us sound advice about things of what you're going through and things in life and what to avoid. So you had a lot of good guidance and wisdom. Even though some of the people were the ones that caused it in your life, it still was the fact that they gave you good wisdom until the point where I got you to this level and they did the best they could. But there are different avenues. And I agree with Marcus in the aspect of I'm always open to something to at least try it. Because I even tried maybe another session on my own and stuff with Shawnee's therapist. But at that point, I felt like, okay, it's cool. I'll get back to doing what I'm doing. But it doesn't mean that it's not open, because like I said, like when you get into a marriage, there's different levels of different therapy that people have to understand. Individually, I understand what he's saying because I haven't done that, because that was more of a relationship type therapy. But individually, it seemed like she was like, okay, read this book, you good, move on from that aspect. And it's like, okay, you can move on from that. But then I've also understood about a family member that I have where he's not open to speak to no therapist, you know what I'm saying? Because there's no trust there, and trust is earned, not given. So you can understand. But one of the things that I've also learned too is to just make sure that if you're somebody important in that person's life, to just make sure you're there for them. And then kind of let them know, like, what are you doing to make sure you're on the right track, and checking those mile marks, because my brothers can definitely know, you know what I'm saying? We definitely have an open relationship to checking each other. If we tell each other or not, if we can feel it, we're going to reach out. And that's the one thing that you really need to have, is to know that somebody is there for you. Because oftentimes you don't have that person to go to. And then it's not until this person dies or kills himself and you're like, dang, man, I was just talking to him, and you know what I'm saying? But was you really there and genuine with your love and leaving the line open? And that's the best thing you can do, is to leave that line open and let you know I'm here for you, and encourage you if you are going through things. Like, if you're not willing to listen to what I have somebody you can talk to. You know what I'm saying? It's really up to you, but just know I want to make sure that you have somebody to go to leave that option open.
I have to say, I want to hit on a couple of things. I have to say, first and foremost, for myself, as it dealt with when I actually recognized and realized that I was in a depressed state, was when I got rid of my guns. And then I realized, you know, it wasn't just that, it was stacks of things. The guns, having to get rid of those, like feeling like I needed to get rid of them, not just because I wanted to get rid of them. The, like, knowing that I was like laying in bed all day, just like their leg was messed up, but that wasn't an excuse. I could still get up, move around, all that type of stuff. But I just chose not to, because it was easier to just stay in bed and watch the Kardashians all day. Like, just the stacks thing, being at work and getting mad about little things, not little things, but just letting little things that letting things that wouldn't normally take me off my game take me all the way off my game, emotionally, that type of stuff. Once I like really started looking at the stack of everything, I was like, you know what? This isn't the life that I'm gonna live. The last thing, I think the major thing was Jeremiah cooking his, you know, breakfast, lunch, dinner, all this stuff and whatever. And then there being something at his school and me being like, I can't make it because I'm like, my legs messed up, so I just can't make it. So kind of giving that excuse and then still showing up anyway, but that excuse being like, nigga, you not doing this. Like, that's not what we're doing. Like, you dedicated to the fact that you're going to show up every single time. You're showing up every single time. And at that point, it was, okay, I don't have to accept this. I can actually do something about it. And then that's when I started doing something about it. What I didn't do was go to counseling. And that leads me into this other portion. Within the Black community, this is what I've run into. I've had several conversations actually with my mother, because my mother lives with me now. because I finally got her to move from St. Louis. We've had multiple conversations since she's been here. Some really eye-opening conversations just about different ways that she feels, ways that we were raised, things that she feels like are different in me now. I've gotten that question several times. This isn't the boy that I raised. Mom, I've been to Afghanistan. I'm a Marine. I was in the Army. Like, I've seen people with body parts all over the place. I've done multiple things all across this world. You're not looking at the same person you raised. It just is what it is. Like, you have to accept that, you know, and just different things like that. But the biggest thing to me that we run into is she will say something, or I'll say something, and she'll say something to whatever I said. Her response immediately makes me think that wasn't about me. That was about something you went through that you have not dealt with. So at every point in time, because it's happened multiple times, my thing is always, Mom, regardless of whatever else is being said right now, you need counseling. Like, this isn't me saying, oh, you're crazy for saying whatever, you need counseling. Like, no, you can obviously see that you're hurt about something. You're carrying something with you. You need counseling. Her answer, I'm not opposed to counseling. I read the self-development books. I do all of that. I do the work within myself to make sure that I'm okay. That's good. And I used to say exactly the same thing. That's why I understand what she's saying, and I understand what Marcus and RJ are saying too. I used to say exactly the same thing. I'm good. I can do the self-development stuff. I'm strong enough. I'm self-aware enough. I can this, that, and the third. But
subscribe so you don't miss next week's video.
Regardless of how self-aware I might think I am, there are little dark spaces that are within me that I know I can't see. And I know I wouldn't have seen some of these spaces if the counselor wasn't looking at me, hearing me say stuff.